Live 97.3 Citi FM. It doesn't get any better than that. Eyewitness News. Be there as it happens.
Citi News.
Good evening and welcome to Eyewitness News live from our studios here in Accra. My name is Bernard Avle and I'm here with
Akosia Oche.
Coming up in the next 1.5 hours.
The poll shows 52% of voters support the removal of Chief Justice. Only 20% of voters oppose her removal. 18% were neutral and 10% did not have an option.
Well, as the controversial process of attempts to remove Ghana's CJ continues, a new poll has some interesting findings. We interrogate that on the program. Also coming up, the Africa Center for Energy Policy is warning government over its decision not to renew the lease of the Goldfields company in the matter of the Daman gold mine. And later, President Mahama extends invitation to the 3 breakaway countries from the ECOWAS as the sub-regional bloc celebrates 50 years of existence. We'll be speaking to some experts on the implications of this. Stay with 97.3 Citi FM for more on this and other stories on Eyewitness News. And in business,
World Trade Organization downplays concerns over recent global tariff hikes affecting African countries.
Eyewitness News is live across the country on our affiliates and around the globe on citinewsroom.com. We're live in the Western region on Adjumpa 100.7 FM in Takwa, Beach 105.5 FM and Sky 93.5 FM, both in Takrady. We're also live in the Bono region on Greener 95.9 FM in Sunyai, and in the Ashanti region we're live on Adjunipa 99.9 FM in Nkawie. Eyewitness is also live on the Volta region on Heritage 107.3 FM in Hohwe and Freedom 88.1 in Sogakop. In the Northern region, we are live on Radio Gaki 88.3 FM in Saboba and Quality 88.7 FM in Garu in the Upper East region. We're also live on Nobia FM 98.1 in Nalerigu in the Northeast region. Your comments are welcome via our WhatsApp line 054 998 6996. Akosia will set the ball rolling.
Let's start from here. A poll by Global Info Analytics has shown that majority of Ghanaians support the removal of Chief Justice Gertrude Araba Isaba Sakitokono. Other findings show that 52% of voters support the Chief Justice's removal, while 20% oppose it. While additionally, 18% of respondents were neutral and 10% expressed no option. Or the survey was conducted between April 7 and April 16, 2025 and sampled 2,545 voters across all 16 regions of Ghana.
Thank you. So Musa Dankwa is the Executive Director of Global Info Analytics. He joins us to provide context for this report. Musa, thanks for joining us. Good evening.
Good evening to you, Bernard.
In the face of how controversial this matter is, what goaded you to do this survey within this short period, seeing as some of the processes in the Constitution require that even the hearings regarding the petition be done in camera? What was the motivation?
Bernard, we've been doing this kind of work as part of our good governance pledge for this country. And I remember before the IGP was removed, we didn't have a chance to do this survey because the timing was not right for us in terms of the plan. So when we went to the field, we realized that people were supporting the IGP in terms of the way he performed his job. But the sacking had already happened when we were polling. So slightly about 53% were supporting the dismissal. But we wanted the public to give us their view on this issue of CJ before the decision is taken. Just that, because sometimes when the president makes a decision, people tend to align with him, to agree with him. But we wanted to see whether they will have a different view earlier on before any decision was taken. So this is the reason why we went to the poll to do this survey, and also to keep the conversation in public discourse. So those who are making the decision will focus on the poll rather than for opinion.
So what questions did you ask the respondents?
We know this may be an issue for every person that we spoke to understand. So we laid what we call the preamble. And the preamble sought to provide a bit of information on what is happening. Now, so if you see the question we asked them, the first question was, there are currently 3 petitions from Ghanaians asking for the removal of Chief Justice, but no evidence of any propriety has been public yet. Please indicate your level of support for the removal of the Chief Justice. First of all, the process for that to remove her. So this is before they have become aware of any evidence against them. Now, when we spoke, asked them, then 52% of them said, yes, they support her removal, even though they've not seen any evidence. 20% said no, they don't support it, even though they haven't seen any evidence. 18% were neutral, and 10% did not have an opinion on.
I see. I noticed in the IGP case, you said that you didn't have the chance to ask the question before the decision was taken. But I do remember in that survey that you asked generally about what people thought of the IGP's performance during the election before you asked whether they supported the president's decision not to renew or president's decision to essentially sack him. So that it gave us a very balanced view of his performance versus what they thought. And in interpretation, you said the 2 questions must be taken together to understand the full context, that even though they think the IGP did a great job at the election, they still felt he should go because they believe the president has a right to sack him. Why didn't you ask about the CJ's performance in this survey and just went straight to the issue of sacking?
This is a very interesting question, Bernard. You know, the work of the CJ is not very well known to the public. And the work that in terms of rulings and cases is not really very well known in the public domain. So if we should ask a performance, what are they going to be basing it on? It will be very controversial and probably be a bit disservice. But in the case of IGP, everybody knows what it was to keep security and peace.
Hello, Musa, are you there? Hello, Musa. Hello?
Yes, can you hear?
Yes, you went off. So you're saying that whilst the IGP's work is more public-facing, you did not think the CJ's work was more public-facing. I think somebody can debate you on this because, at least in the past year and a half, there have been very many high-profile cases in which the CJ herself has sat. We've had her sit live on television, adjudicate many matters, including the controversial parliamentary issues of MPs and their removal and the rest of it. So, I mean, whilst I can't force you to design your survey, I thought from a public policy perspective, a general opinion about her work could give us a sense of how to interpret what people say, because the IGP matter tells you that people may think somebody could have done a good job and still think that the president has the power to remove. That's number one. Number two, whilst the IGP you can consider to be a direct appointee of the president, the CJ is a bit different because she's a member of the government in terms of she's the number 4 in that line. So I felt like maybe some opinion on her work could have been useful. Be that as it may, you reserve the right to design your questionnaire the way you want to. And I'm hoping that going forward, you may consider some of these suggestions.
I agree with you, Bernard, with hindsight.
But to the extent that people have not seen the content of the petition, do you think it's a fair question to ask the public to just opine on whether they think the CJ should go or not? If, for example, the allegations had been made public and the public reasonably understood what they meant, then you could ask their view. But the fact that somebody has raised allegations about the CJ's tenure and the Constitution says that the hearings should not be made public, and then you ask people, do you support the process? I think it's a bit odd, right? On what basis would on what basis would they tell you that yes or no, and how should you interpret that result? Because it's not as if they have the details of what she's alleged to have done to have an informed opinion.
Bernard, first and foremost, we didn't end with that particular question. We went further for a reason. But before I go to the next question, I think you and I agree that if people form opinion about somebody, when you ask them without any evidence, that perception or opinion may have been formed by other information they may be privy to, publicly or privately. And it may also stem from the fact that recent polls have shown that judiciary really is not in the public good books in terms of perceived corruption. Indeed, in 2003, we did a survey that showed that the Supreme Court, the least trusted judiciary arm of this of our government. So some of these opinions may have been shaped by these perceptions people have held. Be it that it may, if you look at the question we asked them subsequently, we asked them that if evidence is adduced that the CJ has breached the law, please indicate your level of support for this process. We wanted to see people who may change their minds or stick to where they were, having received further and better particulars. And indeed, when you look at that response, you will notice that for those who say they did not have an opinion, or they were neutral, or they opposed to it, we asked them the second question and see whether they would shift their position. When we did ask them the second, what happened there? 30% of those people who were on the have no opinion or oppose the move, now support the process. But 35% still oppose it. 19% were still on the fence. And then 16% didn't have an opinion. It gives you an idea as to whether people have taken an entrenched position before they have known any evidence, and whether evidence accused will let people who are objective take their position.
That's a very interesting point to make. And in addition to that, your poll also showed that 79% of voters who supported John Dramani Mahama generally support the move, whilst for those who supported Bawumia, 70% of a move. That clearly shows us that the responses were political in terms of their party leanings determine whether they support this or not. So at least the value, in addition to whatever you said, is that people are perceiving this from political lenses, and that helps the process. But to the extent that the process is not over, and we report that more than half of Ghanaians support a removal, some could say that can prejudice the process, because it then means that even if I'm a committee member and I'm told that 52% of Ghanaians think she should go, even if I listen to the evidence, that weight of public opinion can affect my judgment, could it not?
Bernard, that is why it is a legal process. You know, in law, public opinion should not matter. And if those who are tasked with this follow public opinion, then they are doing disservice to this country. And indeed, if you look at the jury service, when juries are assembled for a trial, they are taught to ignore any public perception or any public news and focus on the evidence. And we expect them to behave like that. Public opinion is public. It should not inform the judicial process.
Fair enough. And of course, because you come on air to explain, those who care to follow the details would see the nuance. But the tragedy of our work is we go with big headlines. So once you say 52% of Ghanaians support a removal, that becomes what sticks with most people. And I put it to you that definitely affects the process. Because even in law, they say there are public policy reasons for doing things. So while that may not be your intention, the unexpected consequence of your good research could be that you've prejudiced the process against the Chief Justice.
Bernard, I mean, public opinion is public opinion. And opinion poll companies, they are circumspect in what they do. But their work should not be taken extremely beyond the legal boundaries. Let me give you an example. there have been opinions that suggest that the U.S. Chief Justice should resign, but he hasn't resigned.
But that's U.S. Ghana is a different democracy at a different level of development. Anyway, I thank you for your work and obviously for your time. Musa Dankwa is the Executive Director of Global Info Analytics, whose survey, among other things, points to the fact that 52% of respondents support the move to remove the Chief Justice. And we need to put this in context because the evidence has not even been made public, or it's not supposed to be made public, although we know some media houses have reported this. Let's speak to a political analyst, Dr. Jonathan Asante Ochre, whether the basis of my questions to Musa are solid. So, Doc, from a journalist perspective, there's a sense in which a survey can be very good to help a process, but there's also a sense in which a survey can confuse or probably even prejudice a process. And I'm inclined for the latter view. I don't know. Where do you stand on this? The survey put up by Musa Dankwa and the fact that the process for even hearing the matter has not fully been gone through. What do you think?
Well, let me say good evening to your listeners. I think you have also pinned me to the wall. Mr. Abler, it is not a good position to be for now because definitely public opinion will one way or the other influence the way some legal processes may take place. Other times too, it may not. But if, for example, for the good of the country, a decision ought to be taken and the public opinion is equally valued along the processes, then there is nothing, especially when it is in sync with the judicial process or the legal processes, then it means that there is nothing that those who are in the fray can do than to go by what, is on the ground. It may coincide with public opinion, but it may not directly be the one influencing what the legal process or the finality or the conclusion of the process should be. As I said earlier on, be that as it may, it is possible that this public opinion could, one way or the other, influence the process, but it should also be founded on law. And that is my view on that.
But I'm sure you know there's a reason why they tell us in media not to do trial by media. And that's why there's this whole conversation about sub judice. Because when an issue is even in the courts, there's a sense in which unregulated discussions of it could influence the views around the person, even if it doesn't influence the outcome, right? So if you say Bernard Apple is a thief and you discuss it for 3 weeks, even if he's proven to be innocent, in the minds of the public, he's a thief. So I'm just asking how we should sort of treat these surveys in the middle of a process that is quite elaborate and well spelled out. Because if you go to Article 146, they've listed specific things that have to happen. And as you can see, the president is following the process, right? So there's been a petition. The Council of State have established their whatever they are supposed to do. And then we will know if a prima facie case has been established. A committee will be formed. Those processes are quite elaborate. And one of the key issues in that process is that all proceedings under this article should be held in camera. Clearly, the framers realized that putting petitions and the subjects, the allegations against a high office like CJ in the public domain may not be the best, which is why they thought to do it that way. So in discussing it, the public also ought to be quite sensitive to that. Should we not be?
Yeah. I think that you have, elaborated on that particular point of view, and I agree with you. But let us also look at it from this particular perspective. The minority leader is reported to have said that a committee, the petition that some of us are not privy to, he says that it contains flimsy excuses. Now, that in itself is equally prejudicing. So it means that this particular call from minority, for example, asking religious leaders to intervene, pastors, opinion leaders, civil society, traditional leaders, and so on and so forth, to intervene, they have gone on the tangent of politics rather than legality. They have strayed off the tangent of legality to the arena of politics, virtually putting the president on the top box, as though the president is the one going to influence the process one way or the other. And to also go ahead to suggest that the petition contains flimsiest of excuses, it means that through whatever process he's gotten access to the petition, and that is the view that for him is putting in the public domain. That in itself, if we are to bridge that with global analytics data, then the two of them may be equally guilty. And one way or the other, one is trying to put in the public domain a process that should influence the whole process to go this way instead of the other side. But in the case of the global info analytics data, for example, poll, for example, it is nothing personal. These are respondents' view, and he has put out there in terms of percentages. In the middle of that, as you rightly pointed out, it could, one way or the other, obfuscate the issue, or one way or the other, it could make the Chief Justice look guilty even before the whole process starts. And so, I wouldn't hold brief for anyone, but from the side of the minority, for example, they have made it personal. And asking the president not to do A, B, C, and D, and significantly coming from the minority, it's as if the Chief Justice is an MPP person, which I don't have any evidence to that effect. But it is quite strange. Yes, I don't have any evidence there. It's quite strange that it appears solely the MPP minority have made it their task to frustrate the process. That in itself equally puts the Chief Justice in a very tight corner.
Of course, we do know that the minority and the opposition have their role, and they will oppose based on whatever information they have. So while we do not justify the choice of words, it's within their right to express their view. What is useful, in addition to what you've said about Musa's survey, is that clearly there's a political divide on support for this. So his poll shows that 79% of voters who voted for Mahama in the election support the move, with only 4% of Mahama voters opposing it. Whilst those who voted for Bawumia, only 17% support the move and 47% oppose. So clearly, we can see that even the public is divided along political lines already. And if anything at all, Musa's survey has confirmed that for us. So in that sense, it's useful. My final question to you, how do we proceed so that the process is fair for all? Because you've pointed out both sides doing things that may not necessarily, at least the MPP side and then the survey. How do we proceed to ensure that what is left of the process is fair so we get the best outcome?
I think if you asked me, the president has been very fair in this particular, process. Quite fairer than that of what a former president did with respect to Senator Say, in which she did not have access to the petition that was leveled against her. In the case of the Chief Justice, she's had access to it, and it appears that snippets of the petition have already come out. That in itself, we cannot tell who might have leaked that particular information. That in itself, creates a problem for the process. Because going forward, if you are not careful, some people may assume that it is the Chief Justice that might have leaked that information into the quarters of the minority because they appear to be supporting her. And that's the more reason why, the other side may think that if you want to play the game fairly, that there are certain things that you ought not to have done. And if you have gone on that tangent, then they're also going to go on a full hog. I think that we may have to hold our brakes. The process, as per the constitutional provision, should continue. If it leads to an acquittal, so be it. If it leads to a dismissal, I think that the process must go ahead and we'll see to the finality of the whole process. And then Ghana continues in terms of our democracy. But there is one particular thing that I think Swami MP also said in an interview to the effect that the NDC or the president wants to remove the Chief Justice so that they will put their puppet there. Now, that created the impression as though Chief Justice Tokunu, I don't know whether she was put there by the president to be a puppet of the former president. If that reverse logic is anything to go by, then it is bound to obfuscate the whole process. And that in itself will not create an environment in which the Chief Justice could be treated fairly. But I pray that the way and manner the president has started for the process of having to run over the petition to her and asking her response within a stipulated time, of which she did. I think that if you are to look at it from that perspective, then the process should be allowed to go on fairly to get to the conclusion of it.
Fair enough. Thank you for your insights, Dr. Jonathan Asantiochi, political analyst at the University of Cape Coast. Eyewitness News is live on 97.3 Citi FM. We have more stories. Later on, we'll be dealing with the controversial decision not to extend the mining lease for Goldfields in the Damine Gold. And later on, the president of Ghana is courting the Sahel 3, attempting to bring them back to ECOWAS. But we have more stories from the MPP.
Fellow at the Ghana Center for Democratic Development, CDD Ghana, Dr. John Osei Kwapong, has urged the leadership of the New Patriotic Party to reconsider their decision not to release the findings of the Professor Mike Lokwe Committee, or the committee tasked with investigating the party's defeat in the 2024 general elections, presented its report to the party's National Executive Committee yesterday. However, after the meeting, the NPP Director of Communications, Richard Ahiagba, disclosed that the report would not be made public.
I honestly think they should rethink the decision. Even if it's not the full comprehensive report, they should find a way of providing some kind of executive or high-level summary of the key points or key findings to party members. Because again, if you are going to collectively own the defeat and forge unity and moving ahead, you don't want to leave people sort of second guessing, well, why don't you want to share? What do you have to hide? Things like that. If we want to find out the reasons why our party lost, right? That's the question that party members are asking. Then you should be able to share with them the report in some version, so at least they know that the party executives have, quote unquote, nothing to hide.
That was Dr. John Osei Kwapong, a research fellow at the Ghana Center for Democratic Development, CDD Ghana.
Still on Eyewitness News, let's now turn our attention to the story of the Daman Gold Mine. The Africa Center for Energy Policy has opined that the decision by the government of Ghana not to extend the lease of Goldfields in the mine is hasty, and do not think that it's in the best interest of Ghana. But let's hear what the sector minister, Honorable Amakofibua, has been saying about this before we speak to the think tank on their views.
The Minerals Commission has taken a decisive step to assume operational control of the Daman mine of Abosu Goldfields Limited, AGL, upon the expiration of the 30-year lease due on 18th of April 2025. This follows the unsuccessful renewal application by AGL, a subsidiary of Goldfields Limited, which had halted active mining since 2023. AGL shifted to stockpile processing in 2024, indicating plans to continue this into 2025, with the remaining life of the mine estimated by AGL at 1 year. The Daman mine's return to state oversight marks a critical step in Ghana's economic reset, ensuring its gold reserves directly benefit citizens and fuel long-term prosperity. The government of Ghana is committed to enforcing strict protocols to ensure safety, orderly operations, and the protection of all assets. And let it be noted, unauthorized access or disruptions will not be tolerated. Together, we will uphold the integrity of this transition, that everything we are doing here is in the interest of the workers. And I've emphasized in this, though no employee at Daman will lose his job, there will be continuity, there will be protection, there will be security for all workers, for service contractors. Every contract in place will be honored. And we are going to make sure that processes will be very transparent. The government of Ghana, as you know, passed the local content law, and it was the people of Ghana were at the forefront of this effort to empower Ghanaians and to make sure that Ghanaians are in the forefront of the mining industry.
So that was the Minister for Energy, Amma Kofibo, speaking at a press conference yesterday. The Africa Center for Energy Policy has said that they believe that this decision is premature, given particularly the basis for the lease rejection in itself. According to the center, the law is unambiguous on this matter. They quote Section 27 of the Minerals and Mining Act as amended. And they also say that the reasons cited for the rejection they do not think are as thorough enough. They conclude by saying that while they agree that Ghana deserves the benefit fully from its mineral resources, any stakeholder truly aligned with this national goal must be transparent and factual in demonstrating how their decisions maximize public benefit. How did this matter get into the public domain? On 12th April, the CEO of the Goldfields in Ghana wrote a letter to his colleagues, and I'll just read a few paragraphs to put this in context for those who have not been following. It's titled Daman Mining Lease Extension, and he reads inter alia, "Dear colleagues, this is to inform you that our application for the extension of the Daman Mining Lease, which expires on April 18. Now today is April 17, so Friday, April 18, tomorrow, is when the lease would have expired. So he says, colleagues, in the absence of a mining lease, the company is unable to continue operations at Daman beyond 18 April 2025 and will be required to vacate the lease area by that date. Then he goes on, we have tabled further proposals with the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources of Ghana in an effort to resolve the current situation. However, in the interim, we must begin preparing to comply with the expiry of our mining license. This means that starting today, this was the 12th, and over the weekend, we will initiate a phased reduction in production and take steps towards ensuring a safe and orderly shutdown of current mining activities at Daman, pending resolution of the matter or further clarity on the way forward. It is important to emphasize that this development does not affect operations at Takwa. We encourage all our people there to remain focused on maintaining safe and productive operations. It goes on, we understand that this news may come as a shock and will cause concern, particularly to our employees, business partners, and communities at Daman. In response, the company has established a management committee to urgently assess the situation, identify potential paths towards resolution, and evaluate the possible impacts on our people. Our immediate priorities are to ensure the safety and security of our people, understand the implications of government decisions, including any plans that they may have for the future of the mine, and explore how we can best mitigate any negative effects on our people. Then they conclude, we are fully committed to engaging constructively with all relevant stakeholders, especially our people, over the early part of next week. We will maintain regular communication with you as we get additional details and clarifications. In the meantime, please don't hesitate to contact me or your line manager with questions or concerns. So this was signed by Elliot, I think Ejari, who is the CEO of Goldfields Ghana. Dr. Ben Boachi is the Executive Director of the Africa Center for Energy Policy. He held a press conference today and stated inter alia that the government decision not to extend the lease, which expires tomorrow, is premature. Doc, thanks for joining us. Good evening.
Thanks for having me. I'm not Doc yet, so
I think my producer is in a hurry to make you finish your PhD.
Yeah, to give it to me.
They're giving it to you. Okay, so you give it back to me. Okay. Now, yes. So give me the key reasons why you believe that the decision not to extend Goldfields lease in Daman is at best premature and, if possible, hasty and not in the best interest of Ghana based on what we know so far.
Yes, but I think, in this industry, it's not just Ghana, across the world. When you have companies mining in your territory or your regime, there are always conversations around extension. And extension of the mining lease is actually automatic unless there's a substantial breaches in the agreements that are also recognized. And in most cases, whether there's some environmental breaches or there are fiscal breaches or non-payment of the state interest, which may require that the state doesn't renew your license until you're able to sort out those indebtedness. So when we saw that government had intentions not to renew the lease, we were really alarmed and wanted to understand from all perspectives why that is really the case. And we saw reasons that, for me, did not really cut, the requirement for a refusal of a mining lease. And you have a ministry saying that a company hasn't declared reserves, and therefore it amounts to a default or inability of the state to renew the mining lease. Meanwhile, the company has been mining. Last year, they mined about 135,000 ounces of gold from the same mine. They already have stockpiles, which are legitimate resources that have been mined that can be processed. And the conversation they've had with the ministry and MINCOM was to the effect that they want to assess the viability of other reserves or resources in place. They have identified that there are over 3 million ounces of gold resources that they need to convert into reserves. So there are additional works that are ongoing to actually add value to that resources, and expenditures are underway to let happen. So I thought that if you had any concerns, those are things you can easily negotiate to make sure that the mine can continue operating and generating value for the Ghanaian people. And even when you have a renewal, you can still even go to the negotiation table to say, well, we've been here for some years, you have produced, let's look at the economics of it. And that also requires capacity. All right, every mining concession has its own difficulties. And you expect that if the Mineral Commission has been following the operations of the mine, they would understand the geology, the production trend, the difficulties that have been reported by the company over the years, and be able to model that to say that, oh, this particular mine is been doing well, the geology is perhaps better, we could negotiate for a little more or even a little less if you think the geology doesn't support asking for more, just to keep the mine running in a way that benefits the people of Ghana. But the commission and government was not interested in any of this, just to take up the mine and do it by itself. And we thought that really breaches faith.
But
and
Ben,
did not.
My understanding is that this lease has been operational since 1997. So that means that essentially there's just 2 years left on the 30-year lease. So that's point number one. So Goldfields has really, or whichever company has had the lease, has exploited this for 28 out of 30 years. That's number one. Number two, in the as you rightly said, in the last year, because of the stockpiles they had already mined, they were not doing any new mining. And in fact, Reuters wrote a story in November 15 last year, even suggesting that Goldfields was considering selling its Damine mine in Ghana, where it was only processing stockpiled ore after stopping mining operations 2023. So 2 points. I'm surprised you are surprised, because already the company's strategy for the mine seems to have been, we are considering many things as part of our overall mining economics as a group. Selling could be one of it. And I'm not saying selling is bad, but the point is, if the company is considering its options, why shouldn't the nation too consider its options? I think it's fair game, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, so let the company communicate that option to you. I mean, selling, as you indicated, is not bad. If you're in a portfolio of businesses that you have, you may decide that you want to sell an asset and change your mind tomorrow based on changing economic circumstances. And we have economists in this country to understand this better. All right? It is not wrong for a company to take a decision and change its mind. Newmont decided that they would sell $1 billion asset, which they thought within the portfolio of assets, even though it's worth $1 billion, it didn't fit their strategy. That's why they sell the Action mine. It's not because there's no gold there. All right. So companies take decisions based on who is running the company, what does the asset portfolio looks like, what optimization do they need to do at the global level to be able to achieve that optimization. So those decisions are always taken. But when this is communicated to you as a regulator, your decision is based on what the company has ultimately decided to do. And in that instances, they are telling you the new investments they want to do, how they want to operationalize, Daman to make it a viable mine in the next medium term. So it's up to you to evaluate that. And if there are concerns on that specific proposal, you raise those concerns.
Yeah, but Ben, we do not know. We do not know if the company communicated government its intention to sell. Indeed, the story I'm reading from Reuters in November, it was an interview with CEO of Goldfields, Mike Fraser, who was quoted that they are considering doing this. So that's number one. So we do not know if they had written to come, because you do know that if a mining company wants to sell, they have to.
No, but I'm talking to you about the laws of Ghana.
I understand this, but
the processes for renewal of agreements. You know,
but you must communicate. If I give you a lease and you want to sell, you have to communicate to me formally, and I have to agree or not, because I am the one who gave you the lease. Correct?
But that's the point. So there's no sale that can happen without approval of the state. So if they had actually wanted to sell, or they got somebody to buy and they want to sell, they present to the government. The government can even object to the sale of the lease. So that's why the minister by law is supposed to approve any transaction that a mining company does on the lease, because it is our lease, it's our land, it's our resources. When the company decides to exit the lease that has been granted, it is the prerogative of the minister to approve or disapprove the transaction. And we've seen it happen in this country. So it is not for the minister to be sniffing to see whether he would approve or not when it's not on his desk.
Yeah, but he doesn't need to. But Ben, again, I'm speaking from a purely nationalistic point of view. If I have a resource and I've given it to you to mine, and you are considering your options of whether to sell, to keep, or to do whatever, I also need to consider my options in the best interest of my country. That's number one. Number two, the IEA has been telling us for at least 6 months now that they believe that we need to essentially gain full control of our natural resources. You may agree or disagree. Both presidential candidates of the leading parties gave indications of this in the build-up to the election, that Ghana needs full ownership of its natural resources. So I'm not sure if that necessarily is wrong, because the literature out there over resource nationalization, it depends on who you ask. For some countries, they've done it well. Some countries, they mess it up. So should we not really interrogate further how the government intends to proceed, rather than say the decision not to renew the lease is problematic, because it's well within their right to do so?
So if you are pro-nationalization, I think that is fine to say. But you see, whenever anybody makes an argument that the country is not making enough, we should be conscious enough to produce data to show that the country wants X from its production and it is getting Y. All right? We shouldn't just be making blanket statements and say that the country is not benefiting from its resources. You should control it before it benefits. We've been down that road before. I mean, there are reports that shows how we nationalize all our gold mines and we run them down until we decide to go back to revive them by bringing the investors in. When Anglo shut down Obuasi, we could have taken over to mine it. Why didn't you do it? It's not as simple as that when you have not put in your money to crack the rocks and mine it. It takes money, it takes investment, it takes risk to be able to do that. And the state has tried it before and failed, all right? So if we are making a judgment on how much we want, it's always at our discretion to decide that we want to mine. I mean, Ghana's land hasn't run out. There are many thousands of concessions that we are even giving to Ghanaians, and we are not getting anything from it. All right, the small-scale mining sector contributes 40% of our gold output. They contribute 2% of revenue to the state. That is not important to anybody. That doesn't raise concerns about why our resources are produced, but we don't get anything from it. So those conversations, the state can always have it. But what I'm saying is that you have an agreement that states what you need to do when the renewal is due and what processes that has to go through. Let's not be emotional about it, but let's follow the processes. If even you want to buy it back or you want to take the lease, there are legal processes of doing that to make sure that it's not just being an expropriation of the asset, even though you know that there has been investment. And whatever investment, we're talking about a lease that was granted in 1990s. But it doesn't mean that since 1990, the assets that they put in or the investments that they put in, that's what has sustained the mine to today. That's not what it means. There are always reinvestments in technology, innovation that keeps happening on a regular basis to make sure that the mine actually happens. So detaching ourselves from that emotional standpoint into practical economic justification for the decisions that we make are really important.
I take issue with your use of the word emotion, because I'm not sure if the fact that the minister addressed a press conference yesterday was an emotional decision. The fact that they've not necessarily given you all the details, I don't think it's fair to describe that as an emotional decision. In the same way that the company has a right to consider its options, the nation also has a right to consider its options, and describing one as emotional, I don't think it's fair.
So, Bernard, I think I've made a point that there are processes. So unless you are saying that the legal processes that are laid out there in law are irrelevant, and therefore because of the ownership of the resource, you can take any decision at any point. I don't think that's a good business relationship for any country to get into.
Has the company given indication that they may take this to arbitration or some legal resolution because they believe the government has breached the law?
They have invoked that. They've actually informed the government. They have invoked the government, and that's their right under the agreement. And that's why we say that these things you can negotiate it. Even if you want the company to exit, how do you do it so that you don't bruise yourself? I mean, like I keep saying, nobody is forcing anybody to come and mine in Ghana. You can decide to mine it yourself. If you have the money, the technology, and everything, it's as easy as going to the market to buy the equipment to come and mine. Nobody will stop you. All right, but when you get into that relationship, you have to manage it like that. Even if you want the company to exit, it's a proper exit that you go through to make that to happen, so that you are not, by virtue of having the resources, the investment doesn't matter anymore.
Well, as you say, watch this space because clearly there's more happening. Thank you for talking to us. Ben Boachi is the Executive Director of the Africa Center for Energy Policy. Eyewitness News is live. We'll be right back.
Eyewitness News. Be there as it happens.
LPG. I am from a jar and hotse. Nanso se and hubetia mawa. I just would dear dijume. And sana ube so ujano. Here, Nasha se from a jahun cambiara and jeho. Se wote in from a jahun pampana. Bue aponone and pomanu yina. Ebanesa men so ana me numbri biara edi inyina mahuodin eye juma. Dundum eja biara waso ho. Nafre onim di fo mano mmehwe mawo. Fasamina nsuogu in from a jaton true wano ano. Se ehuro natural se etue ampa ta ehwe se droban na etwen from agya no hu ntue na ta sesa droban no acha preko mfie mienu biara echi hwe se abri biara wo be soja no wo be pa wo matches ansa na waso wo stove hwe se from agya ne ho asode no adum abri biara wo mfandi dwuma biara inkratuo yi every National Petroleum Authority aswe.
Oh, jump on now. Go. Google me. At what time will you come back where I don't hear the sound of your car? Why you buy new car?
No, I not change my car. It be the same right. It be the fuel way I change. Way one shouts it. Ever since I started using the all-new Excellium Premium Fuel, fortified with 3-in-1 action. Oh, Joe, now my car they run like electric car. No, it's so.
This is the type of fuel where they want to. Because now engine they cost. Where they want for way if I buy it, it go protect my engine. And with the small way I buy, I go drive, sir.
Absolutely. It's like strapping a turbocharger to your engine and giving it a protector. And what they bust my mind self be the 3-in-1 action no. Excellium they prevent up to 99% of deposit. It be anti-wear, some be anti-corrosion. Won't pay when I open there.
Hey, so where can I find this magical fuel?
Just head over to any Total Energy service station and your car will thank you.
Hey, then make a finish my gobe fast then rush go Total Energies. My friend, but why you hand my gobe inside?
I give you info. Make a fill the gobe too small.
Go.
Joe Pana. Excellium is designed to protect your car engine, decrease fuel consumption, and lower CO2 emissions. Don't say fuel, say Excellium. Choose Excellium, choose quality.
Eyewitness News. Be there as it happens.
Welcome back. The president of Ghana is making overtures to the Sahel 3 in an attempt to bring them back to ECOWAS. Akuso has the details. We'll be speaking to an international relations expert right after this.
President John Dramani Mahama has extended an invitation to the military juntas in Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger to attend the official launch of 50 years of ECOWAS's establishment in Accra. On January 29 this year, the three countries formally withdrew from the Economic Community of West African States after providing the required one-year notice. While addressing the press today, the Minister for Foreign Affairs, Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, stated that the invitation to the heads of state from the Sahel bloc is a step towards building bridges and collaborating to strengthen the West African sub-region.
All right, so let's talk to Dr. Yalgeba, international relations analyst, on what the chips are and where they will fall. Doc, thanks for joining us. So as we heard, Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, we know have resigned from ECOWAS to form the Alliance of Sahel States. It looks like President Mahama has taken on a diplomatic role to try and bring them back, although we don't know if ECOWAS has officially asked them to do this. He's visited all three countries. What do you make of these overtures he's making to these three states?
Thank you very much. there is some background to the whole issue. After they left the organization, after they left ECOWAS, the ECOWAS Commission actually designated the president of Senegal and the president of Togo to actually do everything possible to bring them back into the ECOWAS fold. Long before President John Mahama became installed as the president of this country. Now, interestingly, you remember that they were present when President John Mahama was inaugurated. And soon after that, he actually appointed retired Colonel Beblo Lati to be the envoy to convince the three of them to possibly come back and join the ECOWAS. That's where we are now. So if President Mahama has again invited them to witness the 50th anniversary celebration or the inauguration of the celebration of the ECOWAS, I think it is in the right direction. The fact that they have constituted a new association doesn't therefore mean that they cannot come back and join the ECOWAS. Let me give you an example. The Mano River Union. We have 3 members there. That's Guinea, Liberia, and Sierra Leone. But they are still members of the ECOWAS, so they can always come back so far as they are convinced that their interests can be met. When they come back, then that is fine.
Now, some people feel like the way ECOWAS managed some of the military juntas in terms of commentary after the military leaders took over was what hastened their exit. And I think you've said to me before that choosing President Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the president of ECOWAS Commission or as the chairman of ECOWAS also probably was not necessarily the best move, because he may not have had the experience at that level to manage the process. Do you think Mr. Mahama, in doing this, is positioned to be the leader to, quote unquote, save ECOWAS based on his experience and even the number of leaders who came? Obviously, he has relationships across the board. How do you see Mr. Mahama in all of this? And would he becoming chair of ECOWAS probably help the process?
Thank you. Definitely, I think that the ECOWAS shot itself in the foot, or in the feet for that matter, when along the line they decided to actually intervene militarily to remove those military junta members who were not willing to give in to democratic transformation or changes in their countries, specifically Niger as an example. I think that created a very bad blood between those 3 nations and the ECOWAS leadership or the ECOWAS Commission. Along the way, they realized that they made some mistakes. Now, whilst I'm going to say this, it doesn't therefore mean that I'm supporting the 3 nations. As members of the ECOWAS, definitely there are certain development issues that must be tackled at the level of the Commission, at the level of the ECOWAS heads of state and governments, which we've not been doing. All the members do not have the same capability or capacity to develop straight away. Some are further back in terms of their levels of economic development, security needs and issues and that kind of thing. So constantly the ECOWAS must ensure that they bring them alongside. Take the case of Senegal, Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, Nigeria. These are the more developed members of the ECOWAS. And there are some far behind. So security-wise, in terms of the recent developments in those 3 nations, we realized that there were a lot of military security challenges that they were facing. And that was one of their justifications for the coup, or the coup that took place in those 3 nations. And they were of the view, and I was speaking to one candidate, a doctoral candidate, who happens to be the ambassador of Mali to the United States. And he said all along, it appeared the ECOWAS was oblivious or uncaring about their, internal affairs, internal issues. And my prayer and my longing is that whatever the president of Nigeria, or for that matter, the president of Ghana, President Mahama, are doing, they should also be conscious of the problem, the challenges those nations are facing. Because the three of them cannot just gang up that they are forming an association if they don't have certain things in common. And the three of them, again, they are Francophone nations. And I don't think that we shall put all of them in the same bag. So we belong to the same association, but we have varying different challenges and difficulties. So once in a while, the ECOWAS leadership must be willing and ready to tackle those problems collectively. After all, when you join an association, particularly at the level of states, we talk about what? Collective interest. And collective interest definitely must be tackled collectively. And I think that is a major shortcoming on the part of the ECOWAS. And going forward, I hope that while trying to bring them back into the fold of the ECOWAS, individually and collectively, the heads of states and governments must frontally tackle this problem. Invite the three nations, their leaderships, sit down with them, look critically at the challenge that they are facing so that they will know that indeed being members of the ECOWAS is not just a symbolic thing, okay, but practically they can gain from the membership of the ECOWAS.
And by the way, all this is happening within the context of threatened multilateralism with the tariffs wars that have been occasioned by the US president, the whole views around Europe and NATO, and the fact that America wants to go on its own, Europe is not sure what to do, and China as well. It seems as if ECOWAS is a bit behind, because whilst continental blocs and large nations are aligning themselves, we are still having a petty squabble with our siblings over what is essentially a very small group globally. I mean, what's your advice as they meet for the 50th anniversary of ECOWAS in Accra to the heads of state and heads of foreign ministries? What are the imperatives happening at a very interesting time for multilateralism?
Thank you very much. I'm going to look at this question at two levels. First of all, at the level of the ECOWAS. I don't know whether you are aware or your listeners are aware of this development that the same three nations, some few weeks ago, decided that they were going to increase their tariffs against the other members of the ECOWAS, and in that vein, those nations outside their Association of Sahel States. Now, what was the reason for this? According to reports, they wanted to gain some revenue for developmental problems or developmental priorities. So it's not just the United States which is thinking about generating revenue, though some of the levels that Donald Trump has reached are questionable. But even in our own dispensation, I think that we have continually talked about, creating a common tariff area, a custom union, and probably an economic union. This should not remain on the drawing board. Even beyond this, we are talking of AFTA, the African
free trade continental area, yeah.
Continental free trade area. That's another big one. But for some time now, I think that our initiatives, though laudable, remain on the drawing board. Let me just refresh your memory. You might have heard about NEPAD, New Partnership for African Development. It is at a standstill. The African Peer Review Mechanism is at a standstill. I don't remember the last time that African nations actually tackle or talk about these two former initiatives. Now we're talking about the African Continental Free Trade Area, and of course the global dimensions, talking about what President Donald Trump is doing. These are realities. Now, the second level I want to look at it from is the fact that the individual, we call them regional economic communities, RECs. There are 8 of them recognized by the African Union. And each one of them is supposed to create formidable trading groups that can constitute the building blocks of the African Continental Free Area. You ask me, what have been the attainments in the last maybe 7 years or 6-7 years since the formation of the AFTA 2019? Very little. So I think that we need to show our commitment by actual, concrete programs, objectives on the ground. If not, we'll have several of these protocols and it doesn't help us. So I am full of praise for President John Mahama. But he should not do this unilaterally. As he continues to lure them, he should also work in tandem with the other, leaderships of the rest of the ECOWAS membership. And of course, the African Union is actively involved in this. It's not just a problem for the ECOWAS, it's also a problem for the African Union. Because if there are security problem challenges in the ECOWAS sub-region, directly, indirectly affects the African Union as well. And we're talking about multilateralism. So multilateralism at two levels, at the level of ECOWAS and also at the level of the African Union. So let's see how we proceed on this issue. But as I have already indicated, President Mahama must not do this singularly, particularly since Ghana is hosting the rest of ECOWAS. These are issues that must be brought up for discussion. How do we proceed? I have taken ABC steps. What do you think we should be doing so that at the end of it all, the entire West African sub-region or ECOWAS sub-region will be beneficiaries?
Thank you for your insights, Dr. Yaugebe, International Relations Expert, Lesia at the University of Ghana.
Let's still stay with that press conference this afternoon held by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, because he says his outfit is actively working to reintegrate and reunite Ghanaians being deported from the United States of America. Well, he stated that all necessary steps are being taken to ensure the safe return of 160 Ghanaian nationals on the U.S. deportation list.
Deportations from the U.S. The brief from our foreign service officials in Washington has not changed. We are still looking at roughly 160 Ghanaians on the deportation list. That number has not increased, and the deportations are going on. We decided on humanitarian and human rights grounds not to publicize the deportation. So when they arrive, our team welcomes them. We help them with integration and returning to their families. And we're working with other partners, NADMO, the Ministry of Interior, the IOM, and we are doing all of that quietly because it's important to respect the dignity of our fellow compatriots.
Well, the minister further urged the general public to notify the ministry if any relative is involved in the Russia-Ukraine war. Well, the minister explained that there is limited information about the approximately 14 Ghanaians fighting in the conflict.
It's been very difficult for our colleagues in Moscow to really identify these people, locate them, and to know exactly where they are. We didn't stop there. We invited the Russian ambassador in Accra for a discussion on this matter. And he has also asked for details. He says that his embassy and his government is not aware of this situation. It didn't go through formal channel. I can assure you that we continue to look into this matter. We've told the authorities to pursue this, and we would want to use this opportunity to reach out to the Ghanaian populace. If you do have any relative, any son, any loved one who you believe has been lured to the front lines, please, let's have the details. So far, nobody has been forthcoming.
That was Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Eyewitness News. Be there as it happens.
Charlie, where are you?
Boss man, I'm at the bank.
Really? But your car is in front of your house.
Bro, my bank on my phone, Charlie.
Oh, how?
EcoBank, bro. With EcoBank mobile app, I can do everything, anywhere, anytime. Listen, I just checked my account balance, paid Ahmed's school fees, and sent money to my grandma at Walwale.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Masa, just download the EcoBank mobile app from the Google Play Store or the App Store, or dial *770# and be your own bank manager.
Manager.
Whether to pay bills or fees,
to check account statements, send money across Ghana, abroad, and more. EcoBank mobile app has got it covered. EcoBank Mobile, making everyday people live everyday lives the EcoBank way. EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank.
Sankofa pepper powder, Sankofa pepper powder, Sankofa pepper powder. Abuna amonje krakra, Sankofa pepper powder, Sankofa pepper powder.
Did you know that the UK and Europe offer some of the best high-paying jobs and career opportunities for Ghanaians? But first, you would need to understand the UK and Europe job market, the courses that are in high demand, and the universities that offer the best partial scholarships. Now, Best Education Services warmly invites you to the 2025 UK and Europe Education and Career Fair this April. Come and apply instantly for admissions into courses with paid internship and high graduate employment, partial scholarship from universities and courses sponsored under UK government scholarship schemes. Special opportunities exist for people interested in healthcare, social work, construction, engineering, multimedia communications, and information technology. Come and learn about the UK post-study work visa and pathway to the skills worker visa. A date, 22nd April 2025. Time is 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Venue is Ibis Style Hotel, Airport City. Best Education UK and Europe Education and Career Fair is free, so register now by calling or WhatsApping 025 629 9707.
Get the details. Every significant financial transaction, every market movement, and all the policies that affect your business. Citi Business News. Be informed.
Hello and welcome to the Thursday edition of the Citi Business News on Eyewitness News. I am Akosia Oche. The details. World Trade Organization is downplaying concerns over recent global tariff hikes affecting African countries. Well, earlier this month, the Trump administration announced a new round of import tariffs, with Ghana among those affected by a 10% increase on selected goods. While speaking at the 2025 WTO forecast opening in Geneva, the Director General of the organization, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, acknowledged the developments but noted that the impact may differ from country to country.
At the aggregate level, Africa's economic outlook remains broadly stable under current trade policies, with real GDP growth for the continent largely unchanged, even if reciprocal tariffs are reinstated. This is because Africa's trade with the U.S. is relatively small. The share of Africa's exports to the U.S. as a percentage of its total exports to the world is about 6.5%, and the share of Africa's imports from the U.S. as a share of its total imports is also about 4.4%. Nevertheless, this masks significant variations across countries.
She further challenged African authorities to deepen intra-African trade to help absorb any potential economic shocks from external market disruptions.
I have a message for the continent itself. This message is the need for more self-reliance. The external environment has changed and is more adverse. Aid is drying up and trade is becoming more politicized. So there needs to be a focus on raising domestic resources, attracting domestic, regional and foreign investments, on faster and greater trade integration within the continent, such that intra-Africa trade is lifted well beyond the current 16%. Now, let me end with lessons. The first one is over-dependence. Today's trade tensions remind us that we must also diversify demand. Over-concentration, whether it's in where we buy from or where we sell to, leads to over-dependence, making economies more vulnerable to shocks and fostering a sense of unfair burden sharing.
That was the voice of Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, the Director General of the World Trade Organization. Away from that, Zijin Mining Group Company Limited has completed the acquisition of Newmont Corporation's Achim Gold Mine for $1 billion, expanding the Chinese company's gold production capacity and also reinforcing its international growth strategy. Daniel Sakite of the Citi Business Desk has more on this report.
Located in one of the world's major gold belts, the Achim Gold Mine is an open-pit operation that has maintained stable production in recent years. The mine employs a conventional carbon-in-leach processing method and has an annual throughput capacity of 8.5 million tons. Gold output between 2021 and 2024 totaled 40.6 tons, with 2022 marking the peak year at 13.1 tons. In 2023, the Achim project generated $574 million in operating income and posted a net profit of $128 million, underscoring its commercial viability and operational efficiency. Zengin, in a statement, cited the mine's favorable mineralization and potential for reserve expansion as key factors in the acquisition. The company plans to conduct further geological exploration and technical evaluations aimed at increasing resource estimates and extending mine life. The acquisition comes amid a period of elevated gold prices, providing a boost for Zengin's broader strategy to scale up gold output and diversify its asset base across key mining jurisdictions. Newmont's President and Chief Executive Officer Tom Palmer has indicated that Newmont has fully executed its plan to diversify non-core assets, a move aimed at optimizing operational efficiency and enhancing shareholder value.
Daniel Sakite of the Citi Business Desk with that report. Now, Federated Commodities PLC has become the first company to issue a commercial paper on the Ghana Stock Exchange's Ghana Fixed Income Market. That's marking a significant milestone in Ghana's financial sector. While calling on other private sector players, the managing director of the Ghana Stock Exchange, Abena Amwa, encouraged companies to explore the capital market for competitively priced funding. While speaking at the issuance ceremony, Abena Amwa lauded the cocoa buying firm for its pioneering role in tapping into Ghana's newly launched commercial paper market.
This issuance demonstrates your forward-looking leadership, financial discipline, and confidence in Ghana's investment community. This issuance is not just about raising funds, it's about building trust. It's about transparency, and it's about tapping into a broader investor base that is ready to support the real sector role in Ghana. It's also a vote of confidence in the market infrastructure, our regulatory environment, and the appetite of investors to support credible institutions driving Ghana's economic agenda. At the Ghana Stock Exchange, we remain committed to providing efficient, transparent, and robust platforms for raising capital. This commercial paper market is one of just our latest additions in our innovation and diversification agenda, designed to help companies raise capital more quickly while offering investors quality short-term instruments with attractive returns. I want to say to all the private sector companies out there, the GSE's markets are ready for you.
Abena Amwa is Managing Director of the Ghana Stock Exchange, wrapping up the Citi Business News on the Eyewitness News. I'm Akusi Aochedu. Stay with us. Up next is Point Blank.
Eyewitness News. Be there as it happens.
Polytech is everywhere. Durable and authentic. Stronger brand you can trust. Polytech, we get some more Rambo and get some more super. And the Polytech, we did. Polytech, Papa no no, 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 Ankasa. Polytech, the original, always the best.
Oh, jump on now. Go. Google me. At what time will you come back where I don't hear the sound of your car? Why you buy new car?
No, I don't change my car. It be the same, right? It be the fuel way I change. Way one shouts it. Ever since I started using the all-new Excellium Premium Fuel, fortified with 3-in-1 action. Oh, Joe, now my car they run like electric car. No, it's so.
This is the type of fuel where they want to. Cause now engine they cost. Where they want for way if I buy it, go protect my engine. And with the small way I buy, I go drive, sir.
Absolutely. It's like strapping a turbocharger to your engine and giving it a protector. And what they bust my mind safe be the 3-in-1 action, no? Excellium they prevent up to 99% of deposit. It be anti-wear, some be anti-corrosion. Won't pay when I open there.
Hey, so where can I find this magical fuel?
Just head over to any Total Energy service station and your car will thank you.
Hey, then make a finish my gobe fast, then rush go Total Energies. My friend, but why your hand my gobe inside?
I give you info. Make a fill the gobe too small.
Go, what the gogo?
Excellium is designed to protect your car engine, decrease fuel consumption, and lower CO2 emissions. Don't say fuel, say Excellium. Choose Excellium, choose quality.
Eyewitness News. Be there as it happens.
It's now time for Point Blank on Eyewitness News. And our guest is MP for Menchia South, Nana Ajay Bafwewa. The minority in Parliament have been in the news for a number of reasons, commenting on many issues, particularly the petitions that have been forwarded to the President for the removal of the Chief Justice. Of course, some of the minority MPs from the Ashanti region have also commented on the words used by the mayor of Kumasi, threatening to beat up errant traders who hawk on the streets. We're speaking to Bafo on that and other matters. Of course, the MPP itself received the Professor Mike Okwe committee report and set up a constitution review committee to look at aspects of the MPP's constitution. Lawyer Naneje Bafwewa joins us to share some light on all of these matters. Thanks for joining us, Honorable Bafwewa. Good evening.
Welcome, my brother, and thanks for having me. Good evening to you and your cherished listeners.
So the minority has been concerned about the moves to essentially oust the CJ based on 3 petitions. And I think the last we heard was your colleagues asking for chiefs and the clergy to get involved. How did we get here? Why do you think chiefs and clergy should get involved in this matter to impress upon the president? Because some would say the president is following the duly laid out process in Article 146.
Yes. But I think that it's a bit of constraint in terms of the hearing. It's difficult to hear you.
Okay, so I wanted the minority's view on where we were with the CJ petition and all that's going on.
Thank you very much. We think that this is a matter which we need to tread cautiously. That being the case, we need to constantly.
All right, we have a challenge with Bafo's number. I'm going to give you some highlights of what the MPP have said while we're raising back on the line. So the minority parliament has called on religious and traditional leaders to counsel the president, John Dramani Mahama, to suspend proceedings aimed at removing the Chief Justice, Her Ladyship Gertrude Tokonu. According to the caucus, the petition seeking the Chief Justice removals are unfounded and failed to meet the constitutional requirements for removal. So I have Lawyer Bafwewa in studio with me. A lawyer, welcome to the show. Good evening.
Thank you, my brother.
So I was asking why you opted to ask chiefs and religious leaders to join at this stage, where some will say the processes in Article 146 are being followed, at least on the face of it. If you look at what the president is doing, on the face of it, it seems as if he's following that process. So why is the minority going to chiefs and religious leaders at this stage?
Thank you very much, Bernard, and I'm sorry for the delay. There's thick traffic on the road.
It's part of Accra life.
My brother, there's something we all need to advert our minds to. It is not necessarily the procedure. It is also about the potential outcome. And if you advert your mind to the grounds for the removal of the CJ, you will notice something. You will notice that even though the grounds are stated there, what accounts, for instance, to stated misbehavior? What accounts to, for instance, incompetence is something which is left to the good sense of the President and the Council of State. And the Constitution was deliberate about it. It's just like what accounts for the what accounts for the qualification upon which someone may be appointed a judge or the Chief Justice, you realize that there's a bit of latitude in there. And, you know, I always say that when it comes to these matters, you know, I'm always reminded of what Justice Pega said in the case of Attorney General versus Justice Aban in 1995 concerning a case where the Ghana Bar Association wanted Justice Aban to be removed, you know, effectively because post his appointment they were challenging it, and so effectively it would have resulted in his removal. Justice Aban Pega said something which I would want to read, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
It says the Constitution is silent on who a man of high moral character and proven integrity is, and the factors to be taken into account in finding such a person for appointment as Chief Justice of Ghana. The framers of the Constitution 1992 have deliberately left these matters to the good sense of the President, the Council of State and Parliament. Right? In the same token, what constitutes stated misbehavior, like I said in my opening remark, is unknown. And what goes into it, what accounts for it, is also unknown. And so very much heavily depends on the President and the Council of State at this point. Right? And all we are saying is that, look, if there isn't anything grievous, let's not touch the Chief Justice, because we risk making the judiciary a subsidiary of the executive. When the grounds, right, when the elements of the grounds for the removal of a judge is left to the good sense of the President, it's left to the good sense of the Council of State, right? In the case of a judge of a Superior Court of Judicature, it's left to the Chief Justice, right? If you are not careful, right, every judge will operate under fear, because he then knows that if he is not careful, he may be removed at the least opportunity, right? And so let us tread cautiously. If what you have before you, especially because what you have before you, right, I mean, when I refer to you, I'm referring to the Council of State and the President. If what you have before you is not that weighty, let's tread cautiously. Now, we are also concerned because you cannot isolate this from commentaries that came out prior to the elections. Nobody in this country, right, is unaware of the position of the NDC prior to the elections concerning the judiciary. It's a matter of public knowledge. And so when you are dealing with a process which constitutionally is in camera, right, for which reason some of the information you have, they are grapevine information, right, all you can do is to appeal to the good conscience of the actors that, look, let's be careful, let's tread cautiously. If it is not something that borders, for instance, on corruption.
Fair enough. But to the extent that we do not know or are not supposed to know what is contained in these petitions, can we not say that your side is being prejudicial in the sense that if you had said, Mr. President, proceed cautiously and stick to the law, Council of State, exercise good judgment in your proceedings. If there's a committee formed on the basis of a prima facie case, committee, do your work with the level of professionalism required. That would be fair. But if you are asking the religious leaders and the traditional leaders to counsel the President to suspend the proceedings, are you saying that you've seen the contents of the petition and they are without merit? Or you're just saying that because of the potential implications of a president overseeing the role of a CJ, whatever the allegations are, he should stop?
No, you can look at it from two perspectives. One, what I said in terms of what you have picked up from the grapevine In the press conference, if you recall, one of the things that was stated was the fact that as part of the petition, you have someone saying that he was cited for contempt, right, before the Supreme Court, and the CJ was the one presiding. Okay, now for a matter such as this, if it is part of a petition, a president that has presidential, that has a council, right, a president that has the benefit of an attorney general, right, should be able to know that such a petition shouldn't go far. Why? To begin with, the CJ was just the president of the panel, right? And so she cannot be solely held responsible for a panel which is supposed to have an independent mind. It is not like at Citi FM, very respectfully, where Bernard, you are the MD, and so the buck stops with you.
General manager.
I
see you.
Sorry.
I get the point.
General manager. So the buck stops with you. No. When it comes to judicial decision at that level, every judge is responsible for his position, which is why the opinions of all the judges are sought, right? Secondly, we know that you cannot take disciplinary action against a judge for his opinion on a matter of law. Okay, because a judge is entitled to also err, which is why there are appellate processes. Okay, and so if a judge, for instance, errs in terms of a legal position, be it procedural law, be it substantive law, you cannot on the basis of that say that he should be dealt with. You are looking at a chief justice. Who, apart from being a lawyer, right, was a judge of the commercial court for a very long time, right, was a judge of the Court of Appeal. She was appointed a judge of the High Court, right, subsequently at the Court of Appeal, elevated by President during the NDC's, one of the NDC's tenures, and subsequently taken to the Supreme Court, right. And so you cannot, it's difficult for you to come to the conclusion on the mere basis that you were cited for contempt or referred to the General Legal Counsel by the Supreme Court, and so there is.
But are you not doing the committee's work for it, in the sense that we have not seen the full extent of the 3 petitions, and we do not know the substance of those, which is why the Constitution is very careful in 1468 that all proceedings under this article shall be held in camera, and the justice or chairman against whom the petition is made is entitled to be heard in his or her defense by himself or by a lawyer. My point is, in your attempt to stop what you consider an injustice, you may actually be doing the CJ more harm by discussing what you have seen or gleaned of the petition, because the framers were very clear in why they did not want those matters out. And in the way the minority is proceeding, you may actually inadvertently be hurting her reputation.
Is the level of discretion involved in this matter, right, against the backdrop of prior commentaries, which is breathing this kind of apprehension. So even if it is not a case for suspension of the proceedings, because obviously the president has his constitutional right, you cannot. All we are saying is that tread cautiously.
Fair enough.
There's a risk. Because, look, the provisions are such that there's a lot of latitude for you to play with.
So the problem is the Constitution.
The problem is the Constitution. But the Constitution, I always say that. You see, sometimes when people say Ghana's Constitution needs amendment, I always say that the Constitution was made for men of good conscience. You see, it was because if it wasn't, then you would have had an extremely voluminous document, the distance of Accra to Kumasi or Tamale,
just to check the abuse of discretionary power.
Exactly. But because it was made for men of good conscience, for instance, in the appointment of judges, you have, let's say, men of proven integrity. It doesn't, for instance, tell you, as I said, the factors, but it is expected that between the president and the Council of State and the president and Council of State, it's expected that they will be able to tell whether a person is of good conscience or not. It is expected that between the president and the Council of State, they should be able to tell whether this petition merits right, the removal of a judge, of the Chief Justice, in which case you say a prima facie case has been established. And so in that circumstance, we are saying that the very actors involved, please tread with caution.
I think that's fair enough. And since the developing story, we would leave it here for sake of time. But hope to talk to you again soon as you continue with your advocacy as a member of parliament for the people of Menchia South. We've been speaking to Nana Adebafuwa, who is the member of parliament for Menchia South. A few quick comments. So those Ghanaians who are protecting the takeover of Damang, whose interests are they representing? This is just annoying. And then Akate Raymond from Agotime. MPP think they are smarter than the rest of us. When Anodon petitioned President Mahama to remove Loretta Lamte, they were happy. When Faceless Materials petitioned President Akufo-Addo to remove Charlotte Osei, they were happy. Today, the same process is used to remove the CJ, and they are singing in lamentation songs. This is from Raymond Akate. A few more comments. Alassane Hamdan is wondering why the removal of the CJ or attempts to remove her seems to worry the MPP more than the CJ herself. Well, you need to remember that the CJ has not spoken and cannot speak on these matters herself, so we do not know her posture on this, and the minority, being representatives of the people, are well within their right to express their views on important national subjects. But for next time, I'll ask you about Kumasi Mayor, since and what Menchia South people think. But for now, I wish you a happy Easter.
Thank you, my brother.
As we get ready for the next program, thanks so much for listening to tonight's edition. I sat in for your regular hosts, Umaru Sanda Amadu and Selom Adonu, who are unavoidably absent. Sister is up next with a very exciting conversation. Stay with us.